Hey guys, how's it going? It's Shy. I just wanted to, before I even do this video, I just want to say thank you so much for all the comments, all the interaction I've been getting in the past video. I was so surprised by it. So many people are having controller just stories to talk about, things that are similar to what I'm experiencing, the bumper issues. I'm learning about other controllers I didn't know much about, like the Razer Wildcat and the Razer Wolverine, and there's a Battle Beaver custom controller. There's so many different ways to play, and it's really cool to see that this is a topic that really, hit a chord with a lot of people. And I got a lot of you talking about it. So I'm loving the comments, loving the interaction. I even noticed something about the Elite controller. If you remember, I said the sticks were too short and too long. I couldn't find the sweet spot. Somebody even went out of their way to comment saying that there were additional pieces that you can get for these controllers that can help mitigate some of those issues, like add-ons to the sticks and different types of upgrades that you can get for these controllers. So really, really cool. And I'm learning a lot about it, and it's something I'm going to have to look into more. So also thinking of switching off of Scuff with my next controller, because I've experienced a lot of issues, especially with the bumpers early on, and it's such an inconvenience that I'm curious to see what else is out there. But let's keep the fire going, though. We're going to go into the next video, and remember I talked about default controls in Halo and those being a problem. We're going to take a look at that. Now, the reason for this video in the first place is I did a scoreboard spring jumping video, and somebody commented that the scoreboard spring jump is really hard to do on the default layout. And I completely agree. I didn't notice it at first, but I thought about it. If you want to do a scoreboard spring jump on default, you have to at some point hold the A button, hold the right stick, click down. So that means I'm already clawing my right hand to get both of those done. You have to hold the scoreboard. If you want to hold the scoreboard, that means that if your left thumb's occupied, you can't control your movement anymore unless you double claw your controller to hold the scoreboard so you can adjust your movement while you're in the scoreboard spring jump. That's nuts. Like double, you look how stupid I look doing this, but that's, if you don't have paddles. But you shouldn't have to be forced to get paddles to do a scoreboard spring jump, but that's one thing. There are pro players who don't know how to spring jump and they're still amazing at the game, so it's not crucial to know how to spring jump. But I thought about the control scheme overall, and I realized that there are so many ways that this control scheme inconveniences new Halo players and makes it difficult for them to grow and get better at the game in the future. If you get used to these controls and you at some point hit a plateau and you want to get better, these controls you're going to have to switch inevitably. Like they have so many issues. I'm going to talk about 5 areas in particular that you want to take a look at. The 5 areas are jumping with A button, B button thruster pack, crouching with the right stick, sprinting with the left stick, and smart scope with the left trigger. Those are the 5 areas I want to look at. I have something to say, whether it's an issue. I just got an opinion on all of these areas, okay? The first one, we're going to do the easy stuff first. Jumping with the A button. This has been happening forever, like Call of Duty, old Halos, you always jumped with the A button. And the inconvenience with that is every time you jump with the A button, your right thumb has to leave the right stick. And in doing so, there's a fraction of time, a very small window of time where you've sacrificed your ability to aim. It's not game breaking. You don't always jump in Halo, and you shouldn't always be jumping. You shouldn't always be resulting in jumping either, because it's risky. But just knowing that that's a thing, that you have to take your right thumb off the stick at some point to press A, is a potential inconvenience. That's something that could be fixed. But that's not the worst thing. The next one is thruster pack on B button. Now, if you look at all the different face buttons, B button is the farthest from the right stick of the options. And something that I've realized about Halo, and I'm sure we've all realized about Halo, is that you thrust a lot in this game. Of course, you don't want to burn your thrust in stupid situations, but you have to thrust quickly to get out of things. You have to thrust to aggress on people. You have to be able to be confident in your thrust. And the B button is the farthest face button from the thrust. Really, it should be on the X button or on the A button if it's going to be on a face button, so at least you can press it a little bit faster. So that's a pain in the ass that you have to inconvenience yourself. The reload, the least important one, which I think is the reload, should be on the B button. That's the farthest from the right stick. You don't need to quickly reload, or at least not as quickly as you have to thrust. The next part being sprinting with the left stick. Now, I don't like sprinting with left stick. Halo isn't Call of Duty. I'm going to say this for sprinting with the left stick, and I'm going to say this with LT aiming as well. Halo is not Call of Duty. As much as people like to think it's Call of Duty, it looks like Call of Duty maybe on the surface to people who don't know about Halo, and apparently 343 thinks Halo 5 is Call of Duty 2, because this game is not COD, and I don't think those things should be in those places. It operates differently. Both of your sticks, those buttons, are excellent real estate on your controller. You can press those buttons without completely sacrificing your ability to aim or your ability to move. Having sprint on left stick gives so much priority to sprinting, as if sprint is like this super important thing that you always want to be doing. Sprinting is an armor ability. That's how I want you to think about sprint. It's an ability. It's not something that you should be doing on the regular all the time when you're running in and out of battles and stuff. It's something that you only activate in specific instances because it's a special armor ability that you've used. Meaning, I think sprint should be on a button on your controller. I don't think sprint should be in such an important area of real estate that you can easily access it all the time. Crouch should be in that position, in my opinion. Crouch should be in a place where you don't sacrifice your ability to aim while you're crouching, so you can confidently crouch and strafe at the same time, which is very important in this game. With sprint on left stick, you're encouraged to sprint everywhere, and there's no, like, it's easy to sprint. It's just, like, as opposed to having it on a button where you actually have to think about the opportunities that you sprint, because you sacrifice time to aim when you choose to sprint, and I think it makes you a more, I guess, cognitively aware player, because you're taking that time, you're using sprint as an ability as opposed to something that's just naturally on your thumb and it's easy to press, and it makes it feel like Call of Duty. So I hate that. The other thing about Call of Duty, or that makes it feel like Call of Duty, is the smart scope on the left trigger. This game, once again, Halo is not COD. This game is totally different. When you hold the scope down, you get de-scoped immediately if you take a shot to the face, meaning that scoping is not as important in this game as not scoping at all. For 90% of your battles, unless the battle's very far away, you want to be shooting that opponent without being scoped in. You should be confident in your ability to shoot from close to mid-range without being scoped in, and you only really want to scope for the final, like the long-range situations where you would need to do it. With LT aiming, it makes you want to scope all the time, and you're going to constantly get knocked out of your scope, and you're fighting to re-scope. It's just, I feel like it creates kind of bad habits as a player where you're scoping in situations where you otherwise should not be scoping, and you should be confident in your shot without that. Also, I find that if you're not on LT, let's say your right stick click, the classic way to play Halo, which is how Halo players have always scoped in, which was right stick click. If you're on right stick click, you have more discipline, I find. Like, it's way harder, of course, to do a quick shot or a quick scope with the sniper. Like, with the LT aiming, you can quick scope in and come right back. It is just super easy to do. I get that. But with the right stick click, you have all this discipline because it forces you to predict the situations where you're going to get shot out of scope so you can still be confident in those battles. It's a huge learning curve, and I don't think that, like, you can be an LT player and be amazing. I know Proximity, however you say his name, amazing YouTuber, by the way. He is an LT aimer. He changed over partway through Halo 5, and he ended up loving it. I don't know if he went back or not, but he liked it, and that's fine. More power to him. He's a really high-level player. I just think that it's, for your learning process, I almost think that right stick click disciplines you to be more, I guess, cognizant about when you're aiming and using it in only specific scenarios and not relying on LT aim all the time, because it's not as valuable as you would think it is. It's not like Call of Duty, okay? So I'm going to stop my rant on the LT aim. You guys can let me know what you think about that. But that's not crucial. The worst thing, the absolute worst thing about default, and the reason why I don't like default, is right stick click to crouch, okay? Right stick click to crouch is garbage, If you ever want to crouch strafe in your shot, if you ever want to Gandhi hop and shoot somebody, how freaking horrible would that be to Gandhi hop, mash the right stick, and somehow aim and shoot at the same time? That's horrible positioning of crouch, and crouch is vital in Halo. If you want to crouch jump, you have to press A, release your thumb off the A button, and then click the right stick down. That sounds like carpal tunnel waiting to happen. That sounds fucking horrible. So I implore you to change that, to not have crouch on right stick, meaning that you would have to go through some kind of button mapping just to get rid of your crouch. Or if you have paddles, I know some people have paddles, they can put the crouch under the controller, but then I feel like they're sacrificing valuable real estate in your paddles that could be better used on your face buttons, putting those under your controller. So it just, I don't like that positioning. It's horrible. Like, put melee there. Put crouch on your right bumper. Sure, I'd rather have crouch on my right bumper and melee on my right stick than I would have crouch on my right stick. It just feels so bad, and I could never imagine somebody being confident in crouching and shooting, being confident in crouch jumps and shooting at the same time. Like, there's so many different situations where you would need to be crouching because crouch is so important, and you wouldn't be able to shoot at the same time. So that's garbage, okay? So that doesn't mean that you have to switch off default, but down the line, you're probably going to want to switch off default. Now, there's a lot of different layouts, and I don't want to spend like an hour going through all of them. I use bumper jumper, Okay, now even if you don't have paddles, I think bumper jumper is pretty much the way to go for this game because first of all, you're jumping your clambers on left bumper, and that means that you can always shoot when you're jumping. Though it does encourage you to jump more often, which can become a bad habit, so it's something you got to be aware of. Your smart scope is on right stick, which means it's much harder. I get it. It's harder to aim down sight. It's going to take a long time to get the discipline necessary to be good at this, but I think it pays off in the long run. If you look at the pro players who play Halo, 90% of pro players are right stick clicking to aim. Okay, your thruster pack is on the X button where it should be. Your reload is on the B button where it should be. Your sprint is now A button. Now it's an ability. Now you sprint in only specific scenarios. Do not just fucking mash sprint to run in and out of battles like a scrub, basically. It's not Call of Duty. Your crouch is on your left stick. That means that when you're doing crouch jumps, all of your movement stuff is happening on your left hand. Now, this is where I'm going to start to talk about my control scheme, and I come from Smash Bros, okay? Now, something you're going to notice about my channel is I'm dedicated to Halo right now. My old videos are Gears of War, because I used to play Gears actually back in Gears 1, 2, 3 Judgment. But I also come from Smash Bros. I've played Smash at a competitive level. I've commentated Smash, and one thing I've learned about Smash is you want to hold your controller and have your layout, I guess, in such a way that is the easiest for your hands to separate actions. I guess it's hard to explain. Basically, I always, when I play games, I associate movement with my left hand, and I associate shooting and meleeing and all other types of interaction with my right hand. And as long as I can split those two actions, it makes it easier for me, mentally speaking, to learn how to move more quickly. My movement settings in this game is bumper jumper, and then my paddles, I've got from the left to the right, I've got thrust, sprint on the inside paddle, Y for switching weapons on the right inside paddle, and B for reloading on the right outside paddle. That means that if I want to jump, I use my left index finger. If I want to move, I'm obviously using my left thumb. If I'm crouching, I'm clicking the stick and my left thumb. These are all movement actions. If I'm sprinting, activating a movement action, once again, I'm using the inside on my left, using my left middle finger. If I'm thrusting, I'm also using my left middle finger on the outside, right? Everything that I'm doing that's related to movement is happening on the left side of my controller with my left hand, and the only thing that I'm doing, let's say I'm activating stabilize, I got to press the right stick to click to bring the scope up. And then you'll see for the right hand, everything here is shooting and other types of actions. So my right stick obviously controls my aimer. I click in the stick to aim down sight. I press the right bumper to melee, shoot with the right trigger, YY with the inside right paddle, and reload with the outside right paddle. That means that all other types of actions, except grenades. Grenades is just the one weird one. I have grenades on left trigger. But all other actions are on my right hand. Meaning for me, mentally, coming off of things like when I play Smash Bros, I have my dash stance and my wave dashing, and it's just it's different mechanics, but it reminds me of the Smash Bros gameplay that I used to play. Or it makes me think of drums. When I play drums, I keep time on my left hand and I hit the snare with my right. So if I can separate actions, it makes things easier for me mentally to get consistent at them. So that's why I play bumper jumper, and that's why I play the method that I play. That doesn't mean that you have to play this way, but it's something to think about and see, what you think and whether or not that works for you. All right, guys, once again, I'm going to cut off my rant there because I was going over 15 minutes, but altogether, that's why you might not want to use the default control scheme. So, take a look at some other options available. Bumper jumper is what I use. There's also things like hell jumper, which still lets you use the left trigger to aim, and that might run into other types of learning curves, but something to look into. Find something that's a sweet spot. The biggest issue with default, though, you don't want crouch on right stick, and it sucks because that's good real estate. Then you're remapping right stick and putting it under your controller, and yeah, so for all the reasons I talked about. But thank you guys so much for checking out the video. What control scheme do you use? What kind of layout do you use? What do you think is the best layout? And what do you think? Do you disagree with some of the things that I said? LT versus right stick aiming? Let's talk about it in the comments. Thank you so much, guys, for checking it out. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. There's a bell beside the subscribe button. Something else I'm going to do that I didn't do in my previous videos is I'm going to link my Twitter and I'm going to link my Instagram in the description below. So check those out. Help me a lot if you guys can give me a follow. I'm doing a lot of other things behind the scene that I'm really trying to get myself out there, and I love interacting with you guys. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for checking it out.